A tiny veterinary clinic at the end of a road was pelted with cold sheets of rain as winds howled through the narrow streets of the little town of Riverside without mercy in the late autumn. Suddenly, after a lengthy night shift, veterinarian Emily Carter, a former military doctor, cleaned up. A gentle scrunching sound eventually reached her ears. Riverside had become her last refuge, a location to rebuild after her previous existence was devastated by the relentless rain. The sound kept coming back, like someone was pleading to be heard. Emily opened the door and saw an old German shepherd. Its wet fur covered its slender frame, which shivered in the cold. The dog's dark eyes, though, betrayed no fear. Instead, they held a silent plea. Caught between its weathered teeth was a wet bundle of cloth. Grasping it with trembling hands, Emily drew back the fabric, her breath caught in her throat. On the other side, a tiny crumpled note slid out from the blanket's folds. Scrawled across it in trembling handwriting were the words, "Please protect my baby." Emily felt nothing left to give without hesitation. In the midst of a storm, Emily rushed inside with the baby, while Murphy, the elderly shepherd, hobbled after her, his gaze fixed on the helpless infant. The scene unfolded like a page out of a storybook, with the woman cradling the newborn and the soaked, loyal dog standing guard by her side. In the comforting light of the clinic, an unexpected sight unfolded as the baby lay wrapped in warm blankets, his pale complexion turning a healthy shade of pink as his breaths were delicately taken. Emily found solace in a small miracle that gave her hope. She gently placed her palm on his chest, sensing the faint rhythm of his tiny heart. Rising from her seat, she reached for her phone, ready to contact the Riverside Police Department to report the abandoned baby. However, just as she was about to press the screen, a sudden tug on her pant leg almost threw her off her balance. Murphy, the elderly shepherd, had his jaws clamped down on Emily's trouser leg in a kind but strong manner. His eyes, which had been weary and resigned earlier, now glowed with an intense, urgent pleading. "Hey, what's going on?" In response to Emily's whisper, Murphy showed no signs of barking or whining. Instead, he pulled even harder, his body betraying his purpose. Emily had never seen such a look before, the desperate certainty of someone who knew exactly where they needed to go and who needed saving. Despite the relentless rain, Emily didn't hesitate. She seized her raincoat, wrapped the baby in the driest blanket she could find, and held him close to her chest. She followed Murphy's determined strides, blindly trusting in the dog's instincts. Murphy's gait was uneven, and his old knees were unstable on the slippery pavement, but he never wavered as he led her with unfaltering determination through the town's shadowy streets to a weathered wooden seat in the park, illuminated only by a single street lamp. The young lady Emily beheld was slumped over a seat, her head drooping to one side as the rain drenched her pale face. Her lips were barely parted, as if she had struggled to get the courage to cry out, but had failed miserably. Emily drew her coat tightly around the unconscious woman, covering her from the rain as best she could. Meanwhile, Murphy knelt by her side, placing the baby under her coat for protection. He reached out to check the woman's pulse, which was faint but still present. With one hand, Emily called for an ambulance, and with the other, she removed her coat, leaving the unconscious mother to her fate on a rain-soaked bench that stormy night. Murphy had never been trained to do this, and no one had ever given him the order, but he knew in his heart that she and her child were now his responsibility. Michael, a soft-spoken auto mechanic, and Lena, a 24-year-old dreamer, had laid out their plans for a simple life together, complete with a modest home, a small garden, and the sound of children's laughter filling the air. Unfortunately, their plans came crashing down the road when Lena found out she was pregnant on her 23rd birthday, and Michael's diagnosis of advanced liver cancer, which had already spread, came 2 weeks later. Doctors gave them grim prognosis and no treatment options. Nevertheless, they held on to hope regardless, and piece by piece, Michael's cherished toolbox disappeared. Michael's has slipped away, leaving behind Lena's wedding ring and the weathered furniture they'd chosen together. Every aroma turned to medicine, and every breath was accompanied by pleas for a little more time. 5 months into Lena's pregnancy, her family abandoned her, leaving her to face mounting bills and faded memories in a desolate house. With nothing to rely on and nowhere to go, Lena sold what little she had left and hit the road, taking temporary jobs and sleeping under bridges and park benches whenever she could. It was in Riverside on a warm August afternoon that Lena met Murphy. As she sat alone on a cracked bench, one hand clutching her growing belly and the other holding a half-eaten loaf of stale bread, she noticed an old German shepherd watching her warily from a safe distance. Something in his tired eyes felt familiar, a silent understanding between two wandering spirits. From that point on, Murphy accompanied Lena everywhere she went, whether she slept under a bridge or found a corner in a shelter. His silent presence was a promise that she wasn't completely alone, and she tore the bread in half and held out a piece. Instead of grabbing it or begging, Murphy delicately took it between his worn teeth and sat silently by her side, watching as if he had been waiting for her the whole time. Murphy was once an elite canine search and rescue dog trained to detect human scent in the harshest conditions. Before fate led him to Lena, he had saved hikers lost in the mountains, children trapped in collapsed buildings, and his loyalty was forged not by treats or praise, but by an unbreakable bond with his handler officer Jack Miller. This loyalty was more than just because Miller was an officer. It was a constant source of comfort during the hardest days when hope felt impossible to reach. Murphy's steady shadow became the only constant for Lena, providing the faintest proof that someone or something was still watching over her and her unborn child. Despite Jack Miller's retirement, the bond between him and Murphy remained strong. Murphy was more than just a working partner. He was a family member, a dependable friend who understood every breath and sorrow spoken by the UNS. On a typical afternoon after a heavy rain, Jack led Murphy for a walk along the hills outside town, a place they both loved. As the sky started to clear, a crack of thunder shattered the calm, startling Murphy and Jack. The rain had left a fast-moving torrent behind, and before Murphy could regain his footing, he dashed down the hill, his paws slipping hopelessly over the slippery ground. As Murphy regained his footing, he found himself in an unfamiliar environment. The air was heavy with the smell of homelessness, and he couldn't find Jack. Instead, he saw miles and miles of unfamiliar roads, but Murphy's lifelong training had taught him to never give up. He continued his search for home, subsisting on scraps and the kindness of strangers, but he never stopped moving forward, always keeping his eyes on the future. Murphy's journey took a turn the moment he laid eyes on Lena in Riverside Park, slumped on a bench, her delicate frame quivering in the evening cold. Suddenly, his long-suppressed instinct to protect, honed through years of service, resurfaced. From that point on, his quest for home took on a new meaning. He had a new mission: to protect Lena and the unborn life she carried. Amidst the twists of fate and the pain of losing his way, Murphy began to write a new chapter, not about reuniting with his lost home, but about standing guard over the family he had found. From the moment he first laid eyes on Lena, his loyalty was unwavering, like that of a retired canine who had spent his life protecting others. To his surprise, Murphy had decided to make Lena and the unborn child her new mission. Whether Lena slept in a shelter or huddled under an awning, Murphy never slept a wink away from Noah's birth. He stood guard outside rain or shine, always close enough to hear Noah's faintest cries. Whenever the baby stirred, Murphy would gently nuzzle Lena, as if to remind her that her son needed her, on days when exhaustion overwhelmed Lena. Murphy's aging body curled into a protective circle, and his ears, though dulled by time, still twitched at every unfamiliar sound, ready to position himself between Lena and any threat that might come too close. When Noah woke up in the middle of the night, Murphy would cuddle up to him, his breaths creating a rhythm that seemed to calm the baby more than any lullaby. On that stormy night, when Murphy realized Lena couldn't protect her baby anymore, he acted with infinite care, pressing his head gently against her hand and his warm tongue brushing across her cold fingers, bringing her back to the present. Even after putting Noah in Emily's arms, Murphy remained outside the clinic door, his tired eyes fixed on the helpless baby inside. Whenever Noah cried, Murphy would delicately paw at the door, asking the only question that mattered, "Is he okay?" Never before had Lena and Noah been just acquaintances. They had become his family, the driving force behind his life's work, and the ultimate goal he had set for himself. After that tragic night, word of the elderly shepherd's heroic rescue of a baby girl from harm's way spread rapidly throughout Riverside. However, Emily couldn't remain idly in her clinic's back room once she discovered the whole truth about Lena and baby Noah. Sitting beside Lena, Emily offered Lena a bowl of warm soup. Baby Noah slept peacefully in a makeshift crib. Emily could see the worry and fear in Lena's eyes, but she tried to smile. That night, Emily stood at the doorway and watched Murphy, the old dog, curled up beneath Noah's crib. Murphy's eyes flicked up to check on the baby, and Emily felt a silent promise to protect him. Emily knew just what to do, so she snapped a photo. Murphy's compassionate gaze rested on the peaceful infant as she shared a moving tale online. The tale revolved around a young mother who bravely brought her newborn into the world with nothing, and an elderly dog who stood by her side through thick and thin, protecting them from harm. Emily was taken aback by the outpouring of support. By morning, the tiny front room of the clinic had become a veritable treasure trove of donations, including formula, diapers, baby clothes, and even envelopes of cash, all addressed to baby Noah and his extraordinary guardian angel. A local grocer extended a part-time job opportunity to Lena, allowing her to start over. A retired carpenter offered to convert the back room into a comfortable home for Lena and Noah, ensuring they would have a safe haven to call their own. Murphy's unfaltering commitment to Lena's story elevated it beyond the realm of personal narrative. It became an emblem of empathy and a poignant reminder that even the most humble community can unite to alter the course of someone's destiny. When Lena pushes Noah's stroller through town every afternoon, Murphy walks proudly beside them as a guardian reborn. This time, the entire town watches over them. Murphy, who was once just a lost dog searching for his way home, has become Riverside's quiet hero, a symbol of loyalty, resilience, and the kind of love that asks for nothing in return. Lena and Noah's first winter in Riverside was warmer than they had anticipated, and they slowly built a new life on the quiet kindness of an entire town. Having a part-time job at the grocery store provided Lena with a sense of stability. She enjoyed stocking shelves and chatting with friendly customers who always greeted her with a smile. Whenever her shift ended, she returned to Noah, who was becoming more and more loved by both his mother and Murphy, who was no longer a lost dog. Noah's world would be filled with love and light. Murphy was more than just a silent guardian to Lena and Noah. He was like family, a faithful shadow who would always be ready to protect them from danger. Every morning, Murphy would sit by Noah's stroller and watch the baby's shaky first steps. When Lena was busy, Murphy would nap near Noah, his eyes fixed on the boy the whole time. On a beautiful spring afternoon, as Lena and Noah strolled through the park, a familiar voice called out from behind them. "John Murphy, it was truly you, Murphy." Jack Miller, Murphy's ex-handler, stood there, his eyes watering from emotion. After months of searching, he found articles about a heroic shepherd who saved a newborn. Upon seeing Murphy, he knew it was Murphy. What moved Jack even more was Murphy's unwavering gaze as it shifted from him to Lena and Noah. Murphy remained steadfast at his new family's side as he waggled his tail. Jack gently ran his fingers over Murphy's graying fur and knelt down. "If this is where you belong, then I'm not here to take you away," he said. Lena's voice quivered as she thanked him for more than just finding Murphy. She thanked him for understanding that the old shepherd had already found his new home. From that day on, Jack became an integral part of their lives, visiting often, helping Lena, and walking alongside Murphy on their daily strolls. Rather than losing anything, they had simply found a larger family, bound together by love, loyalty, and the invisible threads that bind hearts together. In the peaceful town of Riverside, a single mother, a newborn baby, and a retired canine who had once been lost found shelter, a genuine home, held securely in the embrace of a community that had chosen to